After chasing the head of India's largest real estate company, Abhishek Lodha, for a very long time, he's finally agreed to meet me here. As we know, the Lodha Group is a group that runs projects across a variety of cities: London, Pune, Bombay, Hyderabad. And now here we have the wonderful backdrop of the Trump Tower with us. Abhishek, thanks so much for joining me on the show.
Pleasure.
The real estate market has been very tough in 2015. We've had slowing demand, at least for a majority of projects, oversupply, etc. What's the expectation for 2016?
I believe that real estate is closely linked with the overall state of the economy. I think the Indian economy this year has started healing itself, but there's still a long way to go. And I think it's a similar state with the real estate market, where while the demand continues to grow moderately, there isn't the kind of optimism that one had seen in 2006, 2007. And I think it's very much to do with the state of the economy. If, as most people predict, the Indian economy will grow at somewhere between 7–7.5% over the next 3 to 4 years, then it's very clear that the real estate market has to do quite well. Because there's never been in the history of the global economy in the last 100 years a situation where a country has developed, has grown, and housing has not grown along with it.
Now, my problem with that argument is that a market like Bombay is very different, right? Because it's sort of like a linear city. There's not so much scope of expansion as well. To that extent, you have a lot of oversupply in a market. Look at Lower Parel itself. I mean, 10 years back, you had only, I guess, Lodha that was developing big time. Now there's a whole host of players that have bombarded the market, DB Realty, Oberoi, etc. Do you fear that not just on one hand there's slowing demand, but on the other hand there's increasing competition that could eat into your pie?
I guess, you have to look at demand and supply, two separate things. The first statement I made was about the fact that demand in India will continue to grow if the economy grows. And I think that's something that is a fact. Now, against the demand, what kind of supply comes in, there's a multitude of factors. There's it is factual that there will be more competition if the industry is doing well. And equally, when the industry is not doing so well, some of the fringe players will get out of it. So supply and demand is a function of the marketplace, and it will keep going up and down. But I think inherently, if one says that the Indian economy is going to grow, the Indian consumer is going to do well, then one has to realistically understand how can it be that real estate, where 70–80% of India's wealth, the middle class wealth lies, will not do well. That those two arguments can't go in hand with each other. Either the economy will collapse, in which case real estate will also collapse. But if you believe that the economy will do somewhat well or moderately well, then real estate will equally do well.
Okay, well, I know a lot of middle class people can't afford your projects, at least I can't, so we leave that discussion for another day. But what about prices, Abhishek? Every year we say, oh, this year prices are going to crash, this year prices are going to crash, but the crash hasn't come just yet. But now I'm hearing that there is a softening of prices by about 5–15% in some of the micro markets in Mumbai. Is that a fact?
I believe that, like you said correctly, now it's been, I think, since 2010, so now it's been almost 6 years that, experts have been predicting the fact that real estate prices will fall. It hasn't happened in 5 years, and I see no reason why it will suddenly start happening in the 6th year. The fact of the matter is that real estate margins are fairly tight anyway, and you have a situation where there is a number of players who are going to be unable to complete their projects. So even if they cut prices, people are not foolish enough to go and buy from them. There is a number of reputed brands, each one of them who have a pedigree, have the financial wherewithal, and have the commitment to building their brand over a long period of time and maintaining their reputation. And those are the only brands from whom people are buying today. This year, up to December, we've done about 5,000 crores of new sales, which is the highest we've done in the last 4 years. We'll probably end the year somewhere around 8,000 crores. And that's an example, and it's not just us. We've had a number of launches from other pedigreed players. Godrej had a launch in Mumbai. Oberoi had a launch in Mumbai, which have all done well, which really tells you that when good quality supply comes to the marketplace, the reality of the fact that people want to live in good quality homes or have good quality spaces to work in kicks in. If you talked about players who've had their projects ongoing for 10 years or 7 years, then they will say that the market is bad, but it should be bad, right? Who is going to put in their money if they have no confidence that the project will get completed?
Yeah. So are you trying to tell me that the worst for the real estate sector perhaps is behind us and we won't see the situation like we saw a couple of years ago?
I'm not sure what happened a couple of years ago. I think real estate really experienced a sharp downturn in late 2008 after Lehman Brothers. I think ever since then what one has started seeing is a maturing of the market. more and more of the sales are going towards the reputed branded players. People are very, very concerned about quality. They are not looking for necessarily only the lowest price, because they know that ultimately only a good quality home which is delivered well and delivered within time is going to appreciate in value and protect their investment. So I think that is the growing sign of maturity in the marketplace, where sales are going to the branded players, and I think going forward that is going to be the main trend.
Okay. One concern or complaint that a lot of people have had with Lodha particularly is that the delivery time is not up to the mark, or at least gets dragged on by a couple of years. For example, your New Cuff Parade project, which was expected to be delivered by December 2015, now there's a delay of another 1 year. I understand that approvals, etc. are an issue with many of your projects, but what is the argument in terms of, why does it take so long? And specifically for the New Cuff Parade project, by when do you think we will get to see occupants in that project?
I think doing any kind of physical work in India is extremely challenging. It's not only a question of approvals, because I think approvals, if you're trying to do the right thing, are not so difficult. But there is the real supply chain today. To give you an example, at a number of our projects, we've gotten to, in order to ensure the highest quality, contractors from abroad, a lot from the Middle East. Now, over the last 15-18 months, they've had so many problems in their home markets that they don't really have the capital to do what they were thinking they would do earlier. And now you have to step in and fulfill that gap of capital. So some of our investments in projects have gone up a lot more than we'd expected. But we can afford to do it because we have the capital, we have the financing available. A lot of the other projects are just not able to do that. So one has to take into account that doing physical work in India, any kind of physical work, whether it's building a road, whether it's building a metro, whether it's building a development, is extremely challenging. At New Cuff Parade, we've shifted our delivery date by 12 months. It clearly is something that we are not happy to do, because our overheads go up, our construction cost goes up. There are a number of reasons around it. I don't want to get into what authority and who else is responsible. But yes, the fact is there is a 12-month delay over there. We think that delivering projects on time is really the focus of our company. We currently definitely have delays of between 6 to 12 months on some of our projects. But if you benchmark it against the rest of the competition, and some of this data is very publicly available, I think the fact that we continue to sell in this volume speaks about what kind of confidence people have in our delivery capabilities.
So are you confident that by December 2016 New Cuff Parade will be delivered?
Yeah, the first 4 towers at New Cuff Parade, it's a very large development and it will happen over phases. The first phase, yes.
Okay, I know you get asked this question a lot, Abhishek, but I'm going to ask you again. What about your IPO plans? 4 years back you scrapped your plans, and now in late 2015 we saw the IPO market do extremely well, whether it was Interglobe that got listed, a couple of these pharma companies. Do you think this is the right time for Lodha to go public? And if yes, how long do you think it could take for your IPO to come out?
I think a public offering is a function of many factors, some of them internal and some of them external. And I think very difficult for anybody to predict, whether an IPO happens, if it happens or not. What I can tell you is that that's definitely one of the options we are thinking about. As a company, we are probably the largest private company in India, or maybe the second largest private company in India across any sector. And in order to ensure that there is value creation especially for our employees, and we can take on the next phase of our growth journey, we will definitely look at many options, and one of them would be possibly an IPO, but there's really no timing fixed around it.
Okay, so what about all the reports and the rumors that in the next 7-8 months we'll see some listing?
Like I said, one of the options we consider, whether it takes 7-8 months or whether it takes longer than that, I really don't want to speculate.
And how much would you be looking to raise? Because you do have if you just look around, you'll see the kind of mammoth projects that you have. What are the kind of funds that you would need?
I would again like to restate that if we were to go public, it would be largely to create value, especially for our employees. All of our projects have done very well in terms of sales and are self-funding. So really, we are not looking to raise external funding for any particular obligation or to complete projects. If we raise it, it would be to get onto the next phase of our growth journey. Okay.
I know these are uncomfortable questions to answer, but I'm preparing you for what happens once you get listed, and a lot of questions come your way.
Of course.
What about the debt? Because there were rumors that there was some balance sheet issues, non-payment to lenders, 12,000 crores of debt. We don't have any clarity because you're not a listed company. But do you want to just put out the facts and tell us what exactly is the status of the balance sheet?
Sure. The company has a debt of about 11,000 crores. If you have an example of a non-payment to a lender, I would very much like to know that, because there has not been, let alone non-payment, not even a day of delay in payment to anyone. So, so really, because while we may not be listed, all the lenders are clearly available in the public space, and I would really like to understand where that information or speculation is being asked. That's absolutely false, and I would say innuendo in the worst. As a company, we're very, very comfortable with our debt position. We have currently projects under construction with sales value at current prices of over 80,000 crores. So 11,000 crores of debt, we're very comfortable.
All right, those were some hard-hitting questions, but we have some more lined up. So do stay tuned in. We'll take a short break and come back.